Today we are taking up this another text which is Does It Matter by Richard Leakey. Richard Leakey is the author of the book The Sixth Extinction: Patterns of Life and the Future of Humankind. He has authored this book with Roger Levin. So Richard Leakey is a Kenyan paleoanthropologist, conservationist and a politician. He is also the director of National Museum of Kenya and head Kenyan Wildlife Services. He is the professor of anthropology at Stony Brook University, New York. He's been awarded the Isaac Asimov Science Award in the year 2013, and he has authored the book, as I've mentioned earlier, The Sixth Extinction, which got published in 1995. Let us take up an outline of the essay. There are two opposing views on a need to preserve biodiversity. The first view has been put forward by the economist Julian Simon, and the other has been given by Paul Ehrlich. Biodiversity is important for three criteria. As per Richard Leakey, he gives three criteria why we should value this biodiversity. First is it is important for the economy. Second, it helps in maintaining ecosystems. And third is the rich variety of life gives aesthetic pleasure to human beings. Our ignorance of interactions between species can cause a breakdown of the biota, which is unpredictable and irreversible. So it is necessary for us to understand that all the species, every species in this biodiversity matters because it maintains some kind of interaction with other species in order to maintain the ecosystems. Already we have seen 5 extinctions because as he has authored this book where he mentions that the 6th extinction is about to occur and it can occur at any time, and what is going to be extinct is totally unpredictable. He has studied some fossil records, and on the basis of these fossil records he says that this crisis, the earlier crises which have been there on the planet, the first extinctions, they were also unpredictable and irreversible, and the upcoming crisis is also going to be similar. And he makes an appeal to all the human beings that because the 6th extinction will be triggered by human activity, so we need to take some measures and we need to slow down it in order to help our ecosystem survive for some future years and in order to preserve all those species with whom we share this planet. So before we begin this essay, let me introduce you to the wager which was there between Julian Simon and Paul Ehrlich. In 1980, the biologist Paul Ehrlich, author of The Population Explosion, he made a public bet with techno-optimist and economist Julian Simon, the writer of The Ultimate Resource and its sequel. Now what Paul Ehrlich said, that the prices of natural resources would increase due to overconsumption because more and more people are consuming these resources, and the population growth is also having an unprecedented increase. So Simon believed that market forces and innovation in these natural resources will bring down the prices of these resources. So ultimately Ehrlich lost the bet when prices went down in the year 1990. So these are the two persons who had a wager, and the first one, Paul Ehrlich, he has written some books like The Domestic Animal along with his wife Anne Ehrlich, where he talks about human evolution and the environment and the effect it has on the environment. Another one is like Healing the Planet. This one I have been talking about, The Population Explosion, and he is the man, the biologist, who has authored these books with his wife Anne Ehrlich. So this is Julian Simon, who is an economist, and he has written books like The Ultimate Resource. There has been a sequel, The Ultimate Resource 2, also by the same author, and A Life Against the Grain, Population Matters, where he's talking about people, resources, environment, and immigration. So, this is Julian Simon. So, the author begins by talking about the wager between both these persons. So, let me come to the summary of the text. So, first of all, the author refers to the wager, whether it is just optimism or a wrong calculation of the real consequences. Paul Ehrlich contended against the view that it is premature to be alarmed about the impending collapse of biodiversity. This biodiversity is a sort of genetic library for the whole world, as we have no idea how many species are endangered. By taking an analogy of burning books in a library, now basically what it is all about, there are certain people who believe that we should not be alarmed by thinking that this biodiversity will be lost forever, because they say that we do not know the exact number of species that are present on the earth, and if extinction of some species is not making a difference to us, then we should not be alarmed about the extinction of any of the species which is occurring at present. So for this, against this, Paul Ehrlich gives an analogy. He says that if there are certain books in a library and you start burning down these books and you say that, oh no, nobody knows how many years it's going to take, maybe it will take a couple of years or 10 years or more when all these books will be burnt. So that is not a good thing for the human beings to do. Similarly, we have started burning the genetic resources, or we have started killing, or we have started in a way exterminating the genetic resources from this world, and that means that, and we are giving a logic behind this, that we do not even know the exact number, and we do not know in how many years the whole genetic resource we are having at present is going to vanish. So this is not a good thing for the human beings to do. So the author also mentions, Julian Simon, that he won't be alarmed against an asteroid collision, saying that theories of mass extinction are simply a guesswork. These have no proof, and who knows that some asteroids they might miss hitting Earth as a planet. So basically, Julian Simon is an optimist. He believes in technology, he believes in future of mankind, he believes in market forces, and that's why he is not alarmed by any kind of observation that some asteroid will come and there will be another extinction of biodiversity from the planet Earth. Now, certain concerns are raised by the author. He asks some questions. First is, what are the costs of being wrong about the sixth extinction? Suppose we human beings believe that there no such extinction is going to take place in near future, and even if there is some extinction, so we will survive. Human beings will survive by some way or another. So he simply asks first question, what is the cost of being wrong about this extinction? Second, would it matter if half of the species went into oblivion? Went into oblivion means these will disappear by the end of the century. So that means if human beings are not getting extinct, then if any other species, because we do not value animals and plants and insects and birds and other species, so if some species get extinct, does it matter to anyone amongst us? This is also the title of the essay, Does It Matter to Us? So the author affirms that it will matter a lot if we study the patterns in history, if we study the previous 5 extinctions, if we study the fossil records, if we understand this singular point that any kind of extinction is going to be totally unpredictable and irreversible. So then in the next part, author talks about what is the value of biodiversity, and he takes up 3 criteria. First is economy, second is ecosystem, and third is aesthetics. To make it more simple, let me tell you why this economy has been taken time and again. As all of you know, we keep on cultivating certain kind of crops. We keep on rearing up certain kind of animals. Why? Because these have an economic value to us. Similarly, we do not want to preserve biodiversity. We want to have only those animals, those birds, those species which are giving us some kind of economic benefit. So this is the reason which most of the people, most of the scientists put forward why we should not save biodiversity, and Richard Leakey has an answer to offer against this. So first of all, he gives us an example that if we lose plants and animals, now these plants and animals, they are source of food, and if we lose these plants and animals, we won't be getting medicine from them, we won't be getting food from them. And all human beings, they need a variety of food, they need new medicines, because new diseases, they keep on coming up. And if we lose biodiversity at this stage, then at a later stage we won't be getting enough food and new methods of getting deriving medicine from these plants and animals. Second, he says that there will be loss of ecological interaction, because all the species, they are certain parts of the food chain, and there are interconnections, and these interconnections are not only amongst the species, but these interconnections are also there with the environment, because there are so many cycles going on in environment. For example, water cycle is there, carbon dioxide cycle is there, oxygen cycle is there, nitrogen cycle is there. So these all are the chemical cycles which we have in the environment. And if there is loss of ecological interaction, then this chemistry of soil, it will not have the same efficacy which it had earlier, because the soil will go will go deficit in some chemical component, and the human race also have to will have to bear the loss. Third point that he puts forward is that loss of rich diversity of species will ultimately affect human psyche. The question arises whether all the species are necessary for satisfying economic value, ecosystem services, and for aesthetic pleasure. So, this is a question which Richard Leakey puts forward to his readers. Next, he talks about its effect on economy. He takes a historical example when in America, settlers, they came to the middle west of the United States, and they had cleared the whole land over there. Many forests were cleared, and as a result, many species got removed. So he asks a question: if some species had persisted, had we been in a better condition? The people, they usually put forward this statement that when after clearing the middle west, our situation has not improved, it has not even degraded. So it doesn't matter whether we should allow biodiversity to flourish, or we should end it totally. Scientific and technical advances, as second point which has been put forward by most of the people, that because of scientific and technical advances, we have now seed banks. You people might have heard about a seed bank which is established there in Antarctica by NASA. And with genetic engineering, we have started cloning some species. We have started preserving the seeds of animal. We have started preserving the tissues of the animals, and with tissue culture, we can give birth to new animals as such. So there is no need to preserve the biodiversity. So this is the quote which has been put forward by Julian Simon. The author quotes Kaufman against this, that with death of the passenger pigeon, plains buffalo, and American chestnut, a piece of the American soul was dead. Now, what does he mean by this? When in United States most of the forest area was cleared, there was a loss of certain species also. Three species are being mentioned here. One is the pigeon, American pigeon, second is the buffalo, and third is a plant, American chestnut. So when all these three got exterminated from the biota of America, the author believes, or Kaufman believes, that some part in the American soul, some part from the American psyche was also dead, because they had lost something very much dear to their hearts. Suppose we survive in this ecological poverty by future technologies. Ecological poverty in the sense, some species have already exterminated and we are living with only a few species. Would we be able to feed ever-growing population for the next 7 billion years? Now, Julian Simon has an answer for this. He argues that the quality of life has improved from that of early man or from the earlier ages, and it will continue like this. Our quality of life will keep on improving in future because man is technically capable of altering his environment. So, our continued appropriation of nature can sustain an equable natural world. The author believes that we have started living in artificial urban environments, and that's why we are blind to the reality of global environment. We do not consider that we are already triggering extinction of some species, that we are already changing our climate, that we are already influencing the interaction between the species for the maintenance of ecological systems. Why? Because we are living in artificial environments, urban environments. Next, author discusses the effect on ecosystems. Interactions exist among species from fungi to the global chemical cycles. So, there are interactions between the lowliest of species like fungi, between higher animals, higher terrestrial animals, and the inorganic compounds, or you can say the abiotic components of the environment, which are like land, water, air, soil, etc. The entire biota maintains health and stability. Homo sapiens, the human beings, are governed by the same rules that govern other species in this planet. We don't know how much of current biodiversity can sustain us. We don't know with how many number of species we can have a good life, with a healthy life. We have no idea about that. The writer contends that by continued destruction of biodiversity for economic development will push the natural world over a threshold beyond which it cannot sustain either itself or human beings. What does he mean by this? First of all, we are destructing biodiversity for economic development. As I've already mentioned, we are clearing forest, and forests are a rich storehouse of different kind of plants. We don't cultivate about 90% of the plants that are there in a forest. We only need a few in order to sustain ourselves, in order to meet our daily requirements, and we just cultivate those plants which fetch a high economic yield to us. Similarly, we take care of only those animals, those birds which are important to us in some way or another, and all other animals or birds, they are not even surviving because of human destructive activity, because of our claiming earth, because of our claiming ecosystems, because of our greed for money. So the writer says that with our activities, we are pushing this world to a threshold beyond which it is not possible for nature to sustain either itself or human beings. The author takes example of fossil records, and he says that we also may not exist as a species in the future. What does he mean by this? As all of you might have read evolutionary theory, you might have read about fossils in your earlier classes. There have been fossils of dinosaurs also. Dinosaurs are also not present on earth at present. So there can be a time when human beings also will be in the form of fossils. That this is what he means from this. Next, he talks about biological crisis in the past. Major catastrophic collapses have occurred in the past that are unpredictable and irreversible. So we have only come to know about some of the animals, some of other species from the fossils also, and about other species we have just made speculations. We are not even clear which species existed at a particular time on this earth. Then there have been mass extinctions when a large number of species have been exterminated from the face of earth, and these mass extinctions have occurred due to some objects outside the earth, which means the extraterrestrial objects. For example, asteroids, they strike with earth and there are certain sudden changes and many species they disappear. And then he talks about global changes which are also triggering mass extinctions. For example, when we cut tropical forest or when we start encroaching wild habitats, most of the species, they are exterminated from that particular ecosystem or area. So, fossil records show that any species can vanish anytime and a unique genetic package disappears with it. Every species had got a specific DNA, has got a specific quality. Not even one quality, there are many traits which are associated with a single species. So, when one species gets exterminated from the face of the planet, a whole genetic makeup related to that particular species, which is a unique one, also disappears. The anti-alarmists say that every species has a time span of up to a few million years. What do they mean by this? That every species has got a limited time span on Earth. So it is quite natural that any species is going to exterminate or get extinguished at a particular time. Then why should we be alarmed about saving species when they have a fixed time period on this Earth? So they say where larger terrestrial animals have a shorter span, so it is like wasting time, money, and efforts to save them. Secondly, many people believe that evolution is creative. All of you might have read during your earlier classes that it has taken millions of years from amoeba to the higher terrestrial mammals. So every time in this process of evolution, a new species has been created. And as we all have read from our school days, as per the theory of evolution by Charles Darwin, he has said that this evolution is a continuous process. It is still undergoing, and if this evolution is undergoing, who knows, new species are being created every other day, or there will be some new species when these extinctions will remove the existing ones. Richard Leakey has another point to make here. He says that evolution is creative. The ecosystems, they bounce back to fill the void, the emptiness created by mass extinctions, as mammals, the land mammals or the terrestrial mammals, just like human beings, have already replaced dinosaurs. So, when an asteroid, as it is believed, struck Earth, all the dinosaurs, they were dead after that particular collision, and there was a void and emptiness created over Earth, and Earth tried to maintain itself by creating more species or by creating new species, and the land mammals, they came into existence. So similarly, more new creatures, more novel creatures can appear in future. Human beings can also go extinct. They can also extirpate, being large terrestrial mammals, after some asteroid collides with Earth or after a certain time period, because we also as a species have a limited time span on this Earth. So one day Earth will go on without us. Some believe that we can escape extinction by our capacity of technological advancement. People believe that we can go to some other planets, we can move out of space if we think that some collision with some asteroid is going to happen. So, the future technology will help us to go to some other planet. So that's why we believe that with space travel we will save ourselves. But the author thinks that all these ideas are totally fanciful and the future still remains unpredictable. In the last part, author makes an appeal. So his appeal throughout the chapter is that we have to make our children guardians or the sentinels of this planet. We have to stop this sixth extinction. The past data reveals that extinction is more near the tropical part of the earth, and it always occurs first for those species whose number is limited. But he also assures us that nature has a system to bounce back. It has a system to rebound, but it will occur after some millions of years. So we should be concerned because we share this world with other species and have an ethical duty not to harm others. We have no license to choose which species we want to live with, because one day we too will disappear from the face of the earth. So these two icons I have mentioned here. The first one is for genetic engineering, whereby we are engineering DNA of other species, and the second one is celebration of biodiversity. Now it depends upon human beings which option we want to choose, whether we want to let this biodiversity disappear because we believe in our inherent capacity of genetic engineering, or whether we want to live in harmony with the other species and inhabit the same planet. Thank you.